I am not sure if I should expose my future mother-in-law. I caught her on my home security camera going third base with a male dancer in my backyard at my fiancée's bachelorette party she hosted in my house. My future father-in-law is my mentor. Hi guys, I need your opinion on something. This would be a long story, so hang in there till the end. 5 years ago, I lost my job due to a layoff. That was the lowest point of my life at the time because I almost became homeless. I just bought a brand new house and made a huge down payment. I didn't have any reserves and I was running out of money. What hurt the most was that I gave everything to this company, and when it came time to lay people off, I was one of the casualties. I was one of the first round of people to go. I was 26 years old at the time and have been employed with the company since I graduated. Being unemployed taught me a very good lesson in life, that I should not depend on a 9-to-5 job and should diversify my income streams. 3 months later, I still haven't gotten a job. The jobs that I was getting were out-of-state jobs, and I couldn't easily uproot and leave because I was hoping to get a job around my city. 5 months and I was in desperation mode. I didn't have enough money to make my mortgage payment and pay my light and phone bill, and barely had money to eat. I started driving Uber and delivering food to get by. I was close to losing my house and moving back into my parent basement and be a failure after they have spent thousands of dollars to put me through school. I even haven't told them that I had lost my job because I didn't know I was going to be unemployed for this long. One day I was shopping at Home Depot of all places. While passing the aisle with my shopping cart, this guy was coming from the opposite direction. Let's call him Bill. He is an older guy in his early 50s. I made a joke about something he had in his cart. I don't usually speak to strangers like that, but for some reason I felt like being friendly to him. Unbeknownst to me, this man would play a big part to the man I am today. I don't even remember our initial conversation, but after I made that comment to him, he laughed, and we transitioned from topics to topics. About an hour later, we were still on the aisle conversating. During our conversation, he found out that I was unemployed. I don't disclose that to strangers because I was a private person, but for some reason I wanted to share that with him, and I was lucky I did. Bill spoke about his online and real estate business and how he was raking in thousands of dollars every day. Frankly, I thought he was full of it. I even attempted to exit the conversation, but he was a talker. I felt like he had been stuck in his basement for too long and wanted someone to have a conversation with. He told me about his family and how he is happily married with 3 children. His older 2 were girls 22 and 20, and his youngest is a boy 17. His oldest daughter helps him out in his business and his wife spends the money. That was supposed to be a joke, but it turns out to be true. He said he had people working on his brick and mortar stores, and his daughter helps him out some, but he needed more help to free up his time so he could increase his real estate portfolio. He had company managing his properties, but it's not a hands-off thing because nobody can manage your business like you do. Before we went our separate ways, we exchanged contacts, and he promised to give me a call when he gets home. He was very convincing, almost braggadocios, and I found him a little weird because I felt like he was too pushy. He was offering to teach me what he knew, and I was skeptical on why a stranger that is worth millions would want to mentor someone that he had a chance encounter with. He called me a few minutes after I got home, but I didn't answer. I called him back the following day because I was desperate. What could go wrong? Worst case is that I would find out that he is full of it, and it wouldn't cost me anything. He invited me to come to his house, and he was too busy that day. I thought it was strange that he was too busy, but spent almost an hour talking to a stranger at Home Depot. I went to his house regardless, and when I arrived at his house, I realized that he was not full of it like I thought. His house was a mansion on the better part of town. There were 5 cars parked in his driveway, a Bentley, Jeep, F-150 and 2 Mercedes. I would later find out that he drives the F-150 and the Jeep, and his wife drives the Bentley, and his daughters drives the Mercedes. I was greeted at the door by his oldest daughter, Stephanie. She is my future fiancée. She was asking me who I was looking for because her dad didn't tell her that I was coming. When she was asking me, her dad suddenly showed up behind her and invited me in. He said he would have given me a tour, but he was busy, so he told me to have a sit in his living room. I was sitting in the room waiting for him for about 10 minutes when Stephanie showed up and offered me a drink. She gave me a drink and I started asking her questions about the painting on the wall. I couldn't take my eyes off her. I was attracted to her, and she seemed like a catch. Bill later interrupted us and put me to work immediately. He was a different man from what he showed me at the store. He was more expeditious, have control over his family and environment, and was a no-nonsense workaholic. He manages an online e-commerce business that now have some brick-and-mortar stores. He also has hundreds of residential and commercial properties. His house had 3 office spaces, and I was working within hours of getting there. I remember meeting his wife Janet for the first time. She was cold to me, one of those type of women that feels the need to have expensive stuff to show that she was better than you. She had an expensive handbag, brand name clothing, and you can smell her perfume from the other side of the house. It took her a few weeks to warm up to me, and when she did, she wouldn't stop flirting with me. Janet was 44 years old at the time and was attractive for her age. She works out a lot, so she had a nice figure. She is very controlling and manipulative, and her mindset is that of a taker and not a giver, the opposite of her husband Bill. She only works few hours in the business while her husband could work up to 16 hours a day, and Stephanie is Bill's right-hand person and helps him out as well. Most of the time Janet is out shopping, going to the gym or visiting friends. Janet and her daughter Stephanie are really close. When Stephanie is not working, she is off shopping or hanging out with her mom. I am not sure why Bill picked me for the job. Maybe he didn't know he needed help till he met me at Home Depot. The management side of his real estate business is managed by a third-party management company, and they don't do a good job, so he has to constantly check on them. He spends most of his time in his e-commerce brick-and-mortar stores, so he had 9 other employees that work in his stores. With me working order flows and the back end of the business along with Stephanie, he was spending most of his time at the stores and expanding his property portfolio. Sometimes I go along with him. Stephanie and I were spending a lot of time working together. We started getting close, and it didn't take long for us to start having sex. 6 months later, we made our relationship official. My now girlfriend and her mother were close, so her mother knew we were physically intimate long before we made it official. Few months in, and I was making more money than when I had my 9-to-5 job. I was learning so much from Bill and Stephanie. I did my best to absorb as much as I could, hoping to start my online business and build my own real estate portfolio. About 8 months and I was doing some product research to start my online business, so I was receiving a lot of packages. Then I started having problems with package thieves and had to install cameras in front of my house. Later I installed cameras throughout the perimeter of my home. After installing the cameras, I liked the comfort of having a full perimeter view of my house at all times, so I took it to the next level and installed one in my living room and bedrooms. Then I realized a fetish I never knew I had. I enjoy watching myself being physically intimate with my girlfriend. I enjoy watching people being intimate on hidden cam as well. So, I would install a hidden camera in my bedroom, and I would rewatch when I and my girlfriend were intimate, her not knowing that she is being recorded, add to the allure as well. Before the end of the year, I was closing on my first rental property and was making half my 9-to-5 job passively. During the Christmas party with his family and some of his employees that year, I bought Bill his favorite wine and expensive watch, and I gave a speech thanking him for everything I have. Bill and I became close, and he would often talk to me about his private life. He took me in like a son and a friend. He would complain about his wife's lack of affection towards him and how she spends too much money. If it wasn't her spending habit, he would have been richer than he was. He also complained about how much control his wife had over his children. We would sometimes go out to bars for a couple of drinks. He didn't have any social life. All he knows is business and work, and he likes to talk. I would listen to him because he works so hard on his business, and he needs someone to wind up to. He probably needs a therapist as well, but I enjoy listening because there is a lot of knowledge in his conversation. I had a lot to learn from him. Even though my relationship with Stephanie is official, and her mother knew that I am in a relationship with her daughter, she would flirt with me. She would do things like grab my butt when no one is watching and make awkward jokes. Listening to Bill when he talks about his marriage and lack of intimacy and how much time his wife spends at her home, going to the gym, how she dresses, what she drives, and how often she spends time outside of the house, I assumed she was having an affair. I also suspected that my girlfriend knew something. They are too close for her not to, and she may be covering for her, and that troubles me. I could tell by their behavior when I am around them. Sometimes when I walk into the room, they would start to whisper or stop talking altogether. They do the same thing when Bill and her sibling walk into the room as well. One time I straight up made a joke to my girlfriend that her mom might be cheating on her dad, and I could tell by her reaction that she knew already but was covering for her. I remember being upset about it, but didn't share it with anyone because I thought it was none of my business. My thinking was that how could this man be working so hard, came from nothing and gave you everything, and you refused to show him affection? Yet talk bad about him, spend his money, and sleep around. I found her behavior distasteful, and it bothered me that my girlfriend might be covering for her. It was all suspicion and no concrete evidence at that point. Stephanie was a good girlfriend. Despite that she had more money than me, she is still humble, had the same work ethic as Bill. She cooks, cleans, and acts like a traditional woman, quite the opposite of her mom, so you wouldn't judge a daughter for her mother's behavior, and I didn't have any evidence to prove that she knew anything. Fast forward about 2 years into our relationship, I was no longer working for Bill. I have my own business and had 3 properties. I would visit Bill at least once a week because he is a mentor to me. I had proposed to Stephanie, and she is now my fiancée, and we were living together. I wasn't in a hurry to get married, but suddenly she got pregnant and was rushing me to get married as soon as possible before her belly starts showing. She didn't want to have a baby out of wedlock. I agreed. One evening Stephanie told me that her friends were trying to have a bachelorette party for her, and they were going to rent a suite at a nice hotel. She said her friends were planning on bringing male dancers and that I should do something with my friends so I wouldn't be left out. I could tell that she wasn't into it but was being pressured to do it by her friends. I told her that I don't feel comfortable with the idea of her going to the hotel and having half-unclothed men dancing all over her. She begged me it wasn't like that and promised that the dancers are not allowed to touch, but I said no. When I saw that it was something she wanted to do for her friends, we met halfway when she suggested that the party happens at our home or her parents'. She later narrowed down the option to our home because she said that her mother Janet was coming to the bachelorette party and she didn't want her dad and her younger siblings to know. So, it will be at my house. The whole thing sounded sketchy to me, and I wanted her to cancel. Then I thought about all the cameras I had hidden in my house, and knowing that I would be able to see her when she think I wasn't watching got me excited. On the night of the bachelorette party, I planned on going out with 2 friends. I told Stephanie that we were going to a strip club, but in reality, we were just going out to a sport bar. Strip clubs weren't a thing for me. I lied to her because I felt like it would allow her to feel comfortable during her bachelorette party. She thought that I was going to be going out with a group of friends, but I had only 2 of my best friends with me, and they didn't even know that night was supposed to be my bachelor party, and if they knew, it wouldn't have made a difference because my friends are like me. I left the house at 9 p.m. to join my friends at the sport bar. At around 9:35 p.m. I watched the live feed of the security cameras on my phone as 9 of my wife's best friends trickled into our house. They started drinking and getting comfortable for the night. Around 9:50 p.m. my fiancée's mother Janet arrives with her married friend. I have seen that friend a couple of times, thick as thief those 2. At 10:30 p.m., 3 dancers showed up at my house. One was dressed like a Secret Service agent, the other was a policeman, and the other was a fireman. The women got wild when the dancers enter, threw their hands in the air and screaming. The dancers didn't waste any time. There was no warm-up, the game was on. I was at the bar watching it on my phone in real time. I was more focused on Stephanie than anyone else. Few minutes into the dance routine, it was clear that she had no interest in the show and was just doing it for her friends. After the dancers were done stripping down to their mankinis, they brought my fiancée to the center. She sat on the chair as one of the dancers rubs himself against as she screams and her friends cheer her on. She was closing her eyes and screaming as the dancer rubbed himself all over her. Her friends, even her own mother, cheered her on. I couldn't believe that she was her mother because she wasn't acting like one. You would think that she was just one of her girlfriends. My fiancée was shy, but clearly was uncomfortable with the touching. She soon ran back behind one of her friends so the dancer wouldn't touch her. Most of her friends weren't shy at all. Some of them were aggressively touching the dancers. It didn't take long before one of the dancers pulled his junk out and one of her friends started giving him a BJ. I was shocked. What surprised me was how they all acted like it was normal and continued to cheer her on, like it's something they do every day. It wasn't as if she was being forced. That was just the beginning. My eyes were fixed on my phone and my friends noticed and came to take a look. I told them what was going on and they both huddled around my phone. It was as if we were watching a movie. Around 11:45 p.m. all three dancers now have their junks out dancing around the women. The one that BJ the dancer took him to the bedroom and went the whole 9 yards with him. Few minutes later they came out and she sat down on the couch like she didn't just cheat on her boyfriend. There were 9 of my wife's friends at the party, excluding her mother and her mother's friend. Out of 9 of Stephanie's friends, 2 of them took a dancer to the bedroom, 4 of them gave BJ. Only 3 of Stephanie's friends were as shy as her and refused to touch the dancers. I wasn't the only one that was surprised by this, my friends were too. They kept asking me if it was real. If we didn't know them, we would have thought it was a staged porn movie, but it was real. Janet and her friend were supposed to be the adult in the room, but they participated. Her mother's friend touched all 3 dancers' junk. I didn't know I was going to feel so angry watching unclothed men defiling my house. I was wishing I could drive back home and put them out, but I felt like this was my only chance to get to know these women without any pretense, without them knowing they were being watched. When I thought the dancers were about to wrap things up, I remember thinking how wrong I was for judging Janet because all she did was cheer. But boy was I wrong. It took a turn for the worst. It didn't take long for her to show her true colors. She took one of the dancer by the hand and lead him through the kitchen to my backyard, away from prying eyes. She went on her knees right in front of my outside security camera. The camera in my backyard were not hidden cameras. If they had looked up, they would have seen the red light that shows that they were being recorded in infrared. To add insult to injury, she went third base with him without protection in my backyard, right in front of the security camera. After they were done, they went back in the house like nothing had happened. Stephanie knew that I would be back around 2 a.m. So, everyone left my house before 1:30 p.m. Me and my 2 friends were debating what to do with the evidence we had. One of them suggested that I let it go since my fiancée didn't do anything soul other than the dry humping, which wasn't her fault, and that I shouldn't call off the wedding for that. What do I think women do at bachelorette party? I told them that it's one thing to hear about it, but it's different when you are watching it live on camera. I guess I was naive in that sense, but I don't regret allowing it to happen because I would never have known what types of friends Stephanie had. I wouldn't have had evidence of her mom cheating. I wouldn't have known what actually goes down in one of those bachelorette party. I used to watch movies on dirty sites and would think that it was all staged. Of course most of them are, but some of those amateur videos are real and I had the evidence to prove it. The other one of my friends told me to go nuclear and expose everyone. I was leaning towards exposing everyone, especially after what Janet had done. When I went home that night, my fiancée cleaned up the entire place before I arrived, and it looked like nothing had happened. She knew that I had camera on the outer perimeter of my house, but isn't aware of any camera on the inside of my house. She also wasn't aware at the time about what her mom did in my backyard. I was expecting her to tell me what her friends did with the dancers. We talk about things like this, but she didn't say anything. She only went as far as what the dancers were wearing, and she lied saying that none of her friends touched the dancer, when I clearly saw 2 of her friends on camera going third base with them in one of our bedrooms. She only told me about things she thought I would see on the outside security camera. She didn't mention anything about her friends going third base or even being dry humped by the dancers. I really didn't know what to do. I couldn't believe that a woman that I was about to get married to, a woman that is pregnant with my child, would keep a secret like this from me. She acted like it was just another girl's night out. It made me question every other night she went out with her girlfriends. What gave them the right to betray and lie to the men they claimed to love and to hide things like that from them like it doesn't matter? I recovered all the footage for that night before the memory erases in 48 hours. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going to expose Janet to Bill. I had no reason to hide her secret from a man that I admire and look up to. I felt like if I kept the secret I would be as guilty as her. The following day, I went to Bill's house with a thumb drive that shows her having an affair. He didn't take the news well. He knew his relationship with his wife hasn't been good for a long time, but he didn't suspect that she would cheat on him, especially during her daughter's bachelorette party. He asked me if her daughter knew about the affair, and I immediately said no. I regretted saying no because I suspect that my fiancée knew that her mom was unfaithful, but that wasn't the question he asked. He specifically asked about the affair in my backyard. Suppose he asked about her cheating in general. The right answer would have been I am not sure. After I told him no, I could see sign of relief on his face, like he thought the news would destroy her daughter. The man had no idea that his daughter already knew that her mom was already cheating on him, but was covering for her. It would have devastated him to know that not only that his wife betrayed him, but his daughter also, whom he loved so much, betrayed him as well. Stephanie showed me her true colors when she found out about the tape and that her mom has been exposed. Just by what she said, I came to the realization that she had known all along that her mother was cheating on her dad. She was angry at me for exposing her mom. She told me that I have destroyed her family and it was supposed to be a private party. I responded that I didn't know that I was supposed to hide her mother's secret like her. She didn't even deny that. I asked her how many men is her mother cheating with, and she told me that it was none of my business and that I should stay away from her family. I told her that it's too late because I am part of her family. She has never been that angry at me before. She called me all sorts of names, telling me that I was nobody and her dad made me a man. I didn't care about her insult because she was trying to do anything she could to hurt me, all because I exposed her mom's secret. 5 of her 9 friends were in a relationship and her mom's friend was married as well. I wanted to send the tapes to the partners of all the women that were in a relationship, but I wasn't sure if it was legal in my state. So, to avoid getting into any legal trouble or being sued, I changed my mind. Bill didn't handle the news well. My fiancé refuses to speak to me for days, and I had to find out from Bill that he is getting a divorce from his wife. I felt like I was culpable, and he told me not to. He said that I did the noble thing, and it would have been easier for me to keep it to myself and laugh at him behind his back, but I didn't fail him, and he appreciated it. My fiancé, on the other hand, didn't. I told her that she would put our marriage on hold for now, and she acted like she didn't care. We talked about it later and decided that due to the family drama going on, we should put our marriage on hold for now. We didn't break up, we are just putting the wedding on hold. The wedding was her idea, and I am fine either way. I still love her, but she loves me more than I love her, so we just have to wait to see what happens. A couple of days ago, I went to hang out with Bill, and he is doing much better. He and Janet had already signed the divorce agreement. She would have taken him to the cleaners if not for the evidence I provided. In my state, he had a legal recourse because the court recognized alienation of affection. He used the evidence of her affair as leverage and gave her a lot less than she was asking. I am not sure how my relationship would turn out, but I would like to think that as time goes, the future would be brighter. Stephanie still apologizes to me every time we meet. She admits that what her mom did was wrong, and she couldn't justify the cheating. She just wanted her parent to be together even though she knew he wasn't happy. I explained to her that her father deserves to be with a woman that respects him, and she agreed with me. She still cooks and cleans my house like she does before. The only thing that have changed is that we are no longer getting married this year. She still doesn't know that I recorded the entire bachelorette party. What do you think that I should do? Should I break up with her even though she is pregnant with my baby? Besides the dry humping, which wasn't her fault, she didn't do anything that would cause me to not want to be with her. I need a different perspective.